Podcast City Network.
What is up, beautiful people? Welcome to episode 161 of the Nest Podcast. I'm the People's Champ, Brandon Brewer. The Zach Bill is joining me tonight. And Zach, we are on our very last episode before the start of the football season. How excited are you to finally go into an NFL season with a team to root for?
I'm pumped. I think it's going to be really fun to follow a team all year instead of just kind of watch casually and catch them as they come on Sunday Night Football or whatever it might be. So I look forward to seeing how all the players develop and see the ups and downs of everyone's year and just see what the team can do. It's a extremely interesting situation there in New England. Obviously, we all know about Cam being let go, and now it's Mac Jones's team. So let's see what this kid can do.
Yeah, and I want to remind the people at home that the reason that you're a Pats fan is because over this summer we had a 6-week tournament that narrowed down 32 teams down to the final one, and it just so happened to be that you became a New England Patriots fan based off of the criteria of questions and things that we put out there. And I thought that was a good way to choose your team, and I think it's pretty neat that you ended up a Pats fan after all that.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. I mean, it couldn't have worked out better.
Yeah, for me anyway. But yeah, I'm excited for it. And like you said, it is interesting to get to cheer for a team and follow a team throughout the entire course of it. And you know, like, you didn't end up with a team that was like, oh, well, I'm going to be a Chiefs fan, or I'm going to be a Bucks fan, or one of these other teams that have like so many high expectations going into the season. You ended up on a team that didn't even know who their starting quarterback was going to be whenever it was all said and done, you know, but now you squarely get in on the Mac Jones era. You get to be in on ground floor. And like I said, at one point, you know, you missed the boat on Tom Brady. You didn't get to be a Patriots fan when Tom Brady was a young starting quarterback. You're not going to be wrong a second time.
Right. That's for sure.
Eric, no, he didn't just choose the Pats. The fate chose the Pats for him. I want to make that perfectly clear. We put all these questions on a spinning wheel. The wheel picked whatever criteria he had to choose from, and through that, it was whittled down that he was a Pats fan, and it worked out great. We also had our fantasy football draft last night, which was a lot of fun to be a part of, and I want to thank everybody that came on and talked to us, and everybody that came on and even didn't talk to us. I want to, specifically thank the people that watched that. I'm sure it had to be kind of a weird episode just to watch, because we weren't talking about anything in particular, just our draft. And that's something that we mention from time to time here on the show, and it's fun to talk about, and it's fun to have that live draft. You know, since we have guys that are scattered out all throughout the United States, it's fun to be able to have that one night where we can come together and be on the show. Of course, I've been getting messages left and right all day from our guys in the draft saying like, oh, I thought I did a great job. I really love my team. And then some people saying, oh, I wish I would have done better. I wish I could have done this or that. One guy in particular saying that this was the worst draft that he's ever had. And, you know, it made me think, like, I'm pretty satisfied with my team. I think I did a pretty good job drafting last night. What about you, Zach? How do you feel with your team going forward?
I'm satisfied as well. I think some injuries could really hurt my team. I'm relying heavily on my starters. But I mean, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. I had the 9th pick, so it's not like I had the cream of the crop to begin with, but I definitely have some solid players. I got several guys that I was, interested in that were on my board. So I'm excited. I thought it was a lot of fun last night. And we talked about it during the draft, that drafting in fantasy is just so much fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we specifically mentioned Eric and why he has so many teams is in part because drafting your team is such a good time. You have so much fun. And, you put in a lot of work beforehand if you're going to try to study up on these guys and figure out who you want and all that. But whenever you get that pristine lineup, all that hard work and all that effort, it all comes together, and it makes sense why we do this year in and year out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty satisfied. And you mentioned injuries. It is worth noting that the Ravens' backup running back Justice Hill tore his Achilles, so he is now out for the season. So Gus Edwards' stock continues to soar in fantasy football. I did see that they being the Ravens brought in a couple of guys that were free agents. I think I saw Devontae Freeman, Le'Veon Bell. A couple guys like that to be potential replacements for Justice Hill. But you got to think at least early on in the season that Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards are going to get the bulk of the load as far as running back is concerned.
Absolutely.
So we'll talk about that a little bit more on our Saturday night show, Champ to Champ. And we'll get more into the fantasy football then. But Zach, we actually had college football that took place this weekend. For the first time in months, we had actual real games on TV, albeit of the college variety. And there were upsets that were already taking place. It kicked off the upset train with Virginia Tech knocking off number 10 North Carolina. And after all of the smack talk that we saw in the Sportszilla group from a particular set of Tar Heel fans talking about how the Tennessee Vols weren't all that, their team goes out there and gets crushed by an unranked opponent. So I think karma got the best of them.
Yeah.
Of course, there were some other notable upsets. Number 16 LSU got beat down by unranked UCLA, and things have not looked very good for the Tigers since their championship season of a couple years ago. What do you think's going on down there in the Bayou?
That's a very interesting situation down there. Obviously they had a hell of a year with Joe Burrow. And ever since then, it's kind of been really quiet there. I think it's very hard to compete with Alabama when it comes to recruiting. I think it's very hard for that team to try to steal those 5-star recruits away from Bama and just try and compete. I think that's really what it boils down to. The Alabamas and the Georgias and the kings of the SEC really have a stranglehold on that aspect that I think a lot of people kind of overlook. Is a lot of teams in the SEC are good, but I think those big guys that are always in the mix for the championship draw the recruits, and that's really what keeps them being so good year after year after year.
Yeah, to your point, Zach, Bama lost 5 players in the first round of the NFL draft, and they still went out there and hung 27 points in 5 minutes on a number 14 ranked Miami Hurricanes team. Unreal what they're able to do year in and year out in Alabama. And, I agree with our commenter there that Bama is going to win it all.
Yeah, I completely agree.
They're the best team in college football, and a clear-cut number 2 isn't even close to them. The number 2 ranked team for this year is Oklahoma. And Oklahoma, they won, but they nearly gave it up to an unranked team. I believe they played TCU, if I'm not mistaken. They gave up 35 points, and they actually lost the second half by a score of 21-3. So if it wasn't for a huge second quarter, we could be talking about the number 2 team losing.
Absolutely. And that's a highly suspect team anyway. I think they're lucky that they're in the Big 12, and once they move into the SEC, their whole world is going to change. I think we only talk about them being number 2 because they have that little bit better schedule. They don't have to play all those SEC juggernauts. So yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of that. These high ranked teams are going to start, showing their true colors once they actually have to play some formidable teams. And in the case of Oklahoma, they, like you said, they almost just lost everything right off the bat.
Yeah, and Clemson, they were the number 3 team. They just lost to number 5 Georgia. So to your point, an ACC team going up against an SEC team, the first matchup of the season, and the Tigers look absolutely lost without Trevor Lawrence.
100%.
They scored a whopping 3 points.
I don't think that team knows who they are without Trevor Lawrence for the past 3 years. Did he go to the draft early? Or did he do his he did his 4 years, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was a senior or a junior, to be honest.
That team obviously was just the Trevor Lawrence show. And now that he's gone, Travis Etienne is gone. I can't honestly name another player on Clemson. Granted, I don't necessarily pay attention to them all that much, but that was the limelight that was that team. And now that he's gone, they're going to have to find something. And like you said, they just looked completely lost. Georgia is no slouch, obviously. So this was pretty telling. I don't think they're going to have a very good year. And we might not really be talking about Clemson like we were for the past 4 years, like we are used to, I mean, unless they get some crazy player like they had, they kind of might fall to obscurity.
Yeah, that whole game was a game of defense and sloppy offense on both sides. Georgia didn't look that impressive on offense either. They only scored a total of 10 points, so they didn't really blow the doors off of them, but the defenses are what really held up. Or was it just the sloppy offensive play both ways?
Sure.
We'll know more about both of those teams going forward. Of course, the college selection committee is going to try everything that they can to try to get their favorites in the college football playoffs at the end of the year. So we'll see what happens when all that gets whittled down. But yeah, pretty good opening week for college football. You got to love whenever the upsets are already taking shape and fan bases are drinking themselves to an oblivion like LSU did. And it's been reported that they drank all the booze out there in California before the kickoff even took place.
Yeah. Probably
made losing that game a little bit softer.
Yeah.
But we have NFL that's coming up, and this is the last episode, like I said, before NFL football takes place. So I figured this would be the perfect time to have our annual prediction show for the NFL. Thursday night, of course, is the kickoff with the Cowboys and the Buccaneers being the first 2 teams to take the field in regular season play. And then the following Sunday and Monday, we'll have the rest of the rosters out there. But I wanted to know, Zach, do you have any bold predictions? Anything that's you're going out on a limb thinking that, this might be something that happens this season?
I think the Patriots have a very good chance to win their division. And I think a lot of people are still saying that the Bills are basically the kings of that division. I think if everything clicks, I mean, we've talked about it before. Mac Jones looks unbelievable. I mean, for a guy his age, just scratching the surface of his NFL career, he's ready to do the damn thing. And I think the Patriots may make some moves during the season if they need to bolster something. I think they still have the cap space to do that. I don't think Bill wants to waste any time. He doesn't want to be a mediocre team. He wants to get back to the Super Bowl. And I think that's what it's all about. And I think for him specifically, now that Tom has gone out and had some success away from the Patriots, some people are starting to say, well, Bill is just a regular old quarterback or regular old coach without Tom Brady, because obviously before he was the Patriots coach, didn't do a whole hell of a lot. I think he did win 1 Super Bowl with somebody else or something, but nonetheless, he's basically made a name for himself with Tom Brady as his quarterback. And I think he is competitive in his own right, and he wants to continue his legacy of success there in New England. And I think this is a recipe for that. The Bills are a formidable opponent, absolutely. But I mean, they're not unstoppable. They have a great quarterback, and they have some good offensive pieces, but they can be beaten. I mean, they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, so it's not like they're the Chiefs of the world. So they definitely have some holes that can be taken advantage of by the likes of the Patriots, who've played them for years on end, obviously, and they kind of know each other. So I think if everything clicks for the Patriots and no stars get injured and stuff like that, and maybe they can add some pieces down the line, you could see them as the division champions yet again.
Well, yeah, that would be something for us to see for sure. I'm not that confident. I think the Patriots do make it back to the playoffs. I think last year was the only year in the playoff drought for the Patriots. I think they go on and behind Mac Jones under center, I believe that the Patriots will go 11-6 this season. Like I said, they will make the playoffs. They will have a run at it. Do they make it to the Super Bowl? Do they make it to the AFC Championship? I'm not sold on that just yet.
Yeah.
But I do think that the playoff drought ends this year. In the AFC, I also have the Chargers earning a wild card spot this year for the first time in I don't know how long. So I do think Justin Herbert's going to be able to get it together and not going to suffer that sophomore slump that everybody's talking about. And if I'm going real bold, I've got the Browns winning the AFC North.
I could jump on board with that. Absolutely. I think the Ravens are a bit of an overrated team. We basically know what Lamar Jackson's shtick is now. He's a good player, but I think there's some issues there. They are also a team that, in the past has had a great defense, and I don't think they really have much of that anymore. So nowadays it's score or lose. They basically have to score enough to outscore the other team, and there's no relying on your defense to make a stop. So I definitely think there's a big window for the Browns to jump in and win that division.
Yep. Yeah, I think so too. And going back to what you were saying about Bill, yeah, he won 2 Super Bowls with the Giants before he was a head coach. He was a defensive coordinator, and he was the last Browns head coach before Stefanski to lead the Browns to the playoffs.
Gotcha.
So that was the teams that he was with before he was with the Patriots. And he does have a good pedigree, 6 Super Bowls as a head coach, 8 in total. So he definitely has the hardware to back it up. And the AFC Championship game is a game that should be renamed, or at least the AFC Championship trophy is a trophy that should be renamed the Bill Belichick Trophy for the amount of times that he's played in that game and won that trophy in particular.
Yeah.
But this year, I don't necessarily see the Patriots in that game. I think it's going to basically come down to be the final 4 that we saw last year. I think it's going to be the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC, and in the NFC, I've got it as the Packers and the Buccaneers. As far as who I think is the AFC and NFC champion, I think it's the exact opposite of what we saw last year. I'm going Bills in the AFC, Packers in the NFC.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm kind of just repackaging what we got last year with the Chiefs being the winners. And I could obviously be proven wrong by this, but I don't see any holes in that offense. You could say that there's a bit of an issue with their defense, and their O-line is kind of weird. But as far as I know, that doctor that opted out last year is back, I believe. Or did he retire? I feel like
No, he's back.
Okay, I thought I could have sworn I thought he had retired or something. But anyway, I think their bases are absolutely covered on that offense. If they can even start to try to use Clyde Edwards-Helaire, change some stuff up, there's options all over that field. So it's going to be extremely difficult for teams to outscore the Chiefs. I think an injury is probably their biggest issue. Is Patrick Mahomes going to catch an injury this year while he's running out there? I don't know. Obviously no one knows that, but you saw that a lot last year with the running quarterbacks getting injured. I don't know. I'm not necessarily sure if the Bills can beat them in an AFC championship. I really don't, because I think the Bills have a good team, obviously, but man, it's going to be tough to keep up with them. I mean, at this point, Patrick Mahomes knows how to play in those games. I mean, he's at his short career age, he's been in Super Bowls and all those games plenty of times now. So he's almost gotten used to it, kind of like Tom Brady got used to playing in those big games. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be one to watch for sure, though.
Yeah, and you mentioned Tom Brady. He has developed an affinity for playing in those big games, but he hasn't always come out on top in those big games. He has lost those big games in the past, and I think Patrick Mahomes is due to lose one of those big games, and he will lose in the AFC Championship game this year. I do have a lot of faith and a lot of confidence in the Bills' offense, specifically behind Stephon Diggs. I think that dude, once he gets going, he is an unstoppable force. And my mind keeps flashing back to the memory of Stephon Diggs standing on the sidelines, watching the Chiefs celebrate to go to the Super Bowl, and him having that "this is not going to happen again" mentality.
Sure.
And I feel like he's going to put the entire team on his back, and he's going to carry them across the goal line and into the Super Bowl this year. So for me, I've got it as the Packers and the Bills in the Super Bowl. Do you want to go on a limb and predict a Super Bowl champ?
For me, I have the Chiefs going against the Rams instead of the Packers. I think the Packers definitely have a great choice. In my opinion, it's either the Rams or the Packers. I think this is the Rams' year to kind of bring everything together. If Matt Stafford still has it and he's still that great quarterback, this is the perfect team for him to be on. Good defense, enough weapons on offense to get stuff done. And that's really all they need. I think this is their year to do it. They've been there before and they almost did it. So I think Sean McVay has a good game plan for that kind of thing. He's a good coach. So I think the Rams can get there. When it comes to the Super Bowl winner, I want to lean towards the Chiefs, but I think we've seen what can happen. Obviously they. I think the changing of the guard that was supposed to happen last year clearly didn't happen, and who knows what's going to happen. It's really hard for me to say. I think I'm going to lean towards the Chiefs, but I wouldn't be surprised if they come up short yet again, especially against a team that has a good defense like the Rams do. If they can figure out what the weakness of that Chiefs team is and exploit that, then I think they might struggle.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the Rams will be good. I don't know if they're Super Bowl bound, in my opinion, or not, but I do think that they will be good and much improved over last season. That NFC West is going to be a tough battle all year long, though.
Sure.
And I think that's ultimately going to hurt whatever team wins that division in the playoffs, just because they'll have a lesser seeding and probably have to travel and go on the road to play their playoff games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any team out west having like a first or a second round or a first or second seed to get that bye, just because they have to play each other so much. I could see the winner of that division being a 12-5, 11-6, even just because all four 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, and Cardinals, they're all going to be tough teams to play against.
That's good.
That Rams defense, though, defense wins championships, and the Rams defense is probably one of the best in the entire NFL. Whenever you've got guys like Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey out there on your defense, you've got a pretty stacked division or a stacked team.
Absolutely.
For me, I've got the Buffalo Bills winning it all. I think the Bills are primed and ready. Last season, they got so close. They've never won a Super Bowl in their entire franchise, and I think they've got the team that can do it now. The question is, will they be able to execute on the field? Aaron Rodgers losing in a big game, a big spot to kind of be his swan song in Green Bay is the appropriate way for him to go out.
Absolutely.
But the Bills, I think they've got a little bit more that they're playing for this year, because we talked about it earlier on. They've got a big dispute with their stadium. They want a new stadium built, or they're threatening to leave town and all this stuff. I think the Bills winning the Super Bowl will definitely make the city be like, okay, we want to keep you guys here for however long. We'll pony up whatever money we can to keep the world champion football team here.
Sure.
I think that's going to ultimately be the big deal for the entire city of Buffalo.
Yeah, and I would love that, honestly, for that fan base. They're crazy. They are diehard. Some hardy people up there. I mean, they deal with basically 9 months of harsh winter, and they show out every game for the Bills. I mean, they're throwing themselves through tables. They're lighting stuff on fire. They're wild. So I think a Super Bowl win for that fan base would be spectacular.
Yeah, I'm not a stock expert, but if the Bills make it to the Super Bowl, you might want to invest heavily in tables.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. If it's how you would search for that in the stock market. Like I said, I'm not really a guru on that, but invest heavily in tables. Maybe it's investing in Ace Hardware or Lowe's or one of those places, but that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that we're investing in tables because a lot of them are going to get smashed on the way to the Super Bowl.
Invest in Frank's Red Hot as well, because they're going to be making tons of wings for that Super Bowl party for sure.
That's a good point. Good point. Buffalo wings. That's where they originated from. Buffalo, New York. Comeback Player of the Year is a prestigious award that last year we saw Alex Smith get it. And that was, everybody kind of knew that going into the season whenever he was listed on a roster and was ready to suit up and play. Everybody with a brain was saying, okay, Alex Smith is the Comeback Player of the Year just for making it to this point. Much less he led his team to a playoff berth. But this year we don't have that kind of story. We don't have that kind of guy who's coming back off of a traumatic injury to make his return to the game. So the Comeback Player of the Year is actually a pretty interesting conversation. Do you know who you would choose right now as the Comeback Player of the Year?
I do. I'm going to go with Dak Prescott. And I think he's
coming back off of that pretty big injury, huh?
Yeah, he had a hell of a year before that injury last year, and he's coming back to a team that has a lot of good weapons on offense, specifically ones that he can throw to and kind of boost his own stats as he's winning with his team. If he can have a similar season like he was having last year, he's going to be lighting the world on fire, and I think he's kind of got a bigger spotlight because he's with Dallas, and obviously that's quote unquote America's team. And they plaster them all over the place. So I think he's got the attention of the media surrounding him. If you remember for the Hall of Fame game, they interviewed him on a little Skype deal, and just everybody was curious as to how he's feeling and everything. And I mean, the news has been keeping up with basically everything that has been going on with him all preseason. He had that weird shoulder thing that was bothering him or whatever. And I think a lot of eyes are on him to see if he's going to bounce back. He signed a huge contract. Jerry Jones finally paid him what he is owed or worth or whatever the thoughts were on that, because $30 million wasn't enough. So I think now is the time for him to prove, hey, I am worth that much, and I'm going to go out there and win. And I think if he does that, then I think he's going to get that Comeback Player of the Year award.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't really think about Dak, even though I should. He is a guy that's coming off of a major injury, and if he's able to perform at that level, he's definitely a candidate for that. I think part of the reason why the media and all that have been so up to date on all the Dak Prescott and Cowboy information is in part because they were featured on Hard Knocks this year as well. Yeah. So they had the cameras around them 24/7. Plus, like you said, they're quote America's team. So a lot of people like to keep tabs on them, love them or hate them. They are brought up a lot in conversation when it comes to football circles. Mm-hmm. Pretty good choice there. Other candidates that I could see are guys like Carson Wentz in Indianapolis. This is a guy that's coming off of a terrible year where he was statistically the worst quarterback there in Philadelphia. And if he's able to bounce back and have any semblance of success and bounce back to his MVP candidate season from a couple years ago, whenever the Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl, he could be in line for that Comeback Player of the Year. But I'm going to say Jameis Winston is my Comeback Player of the Year. This is a guy that he's not really coming off of an injury, but he was taken back in 2019, he famously threw his 30 interception season. He lost his starting job in Tampa, got traded or let go or whatever, and then signed with the New Orleans Saints, spent a year learning under Drew Brees and Sean Payton there in the New Orleans system. Drew Brees retired. He re-signed with the Saints for another year run with them, won the quarterback battle between Taysom Hill, and now he's poised to be the starter for the New Orleans Saints. This is a guy that I think could put a really good charge into that Saints offense and lead the Saints to not a championship, but a playoff berth.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they could still be competitive there in the NFC South. Do they win the entire division? I'm not sure, because the Bucks are lurking down there and they're going to be good, but they could do enough to make it to the playoffs in the NFC. And if that happens, then it's anybody's ball game. But Jameis Winston leading the Saints whenever everyone else has given up on them, I think could earn him some votes for comeback player of the year.
Yeah, that's definitely a good pick. And I think that's a guy who at one point had a lot of fan base behind him. Obviously, he was a great college player, and he can throw some touchdowns. His famous quote: "If you take away the interceptions, I'm balling." I think that's honestly kind of true. If he can correct his mistakes, he can be a hell of a quarterback. And he's on a very good team right now. They're in a bit of a transition period, obviously, because they've just lost their future Hall of Famer quarterback. But if he can kind of step right in and start having some success, then he can definitely be one of those guys who, like you said, he lost his job. He became a backup. And if he can jump right back into, MVP talks, kind of stuff like that, if he can throw up some crazy numbers, then he can be one of those guys that had a comeback. And that's a huge comeback. You don't see a lot of NFL players go from the man to second fiddle and then right back to the man. So I think that'd be very impressive from him for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of a similar situation with Cam Newton. He's a guy that was cut from the Patriots, and now he's going to, if he does sign with anybody, sign on presumably as a backup and wait his turn, continue to develop, and see if he can get back to that MVP form that he was at in Carolina years ago. But yeah, Jameis Winston back in 2019, yeah, he threw 30 interceptions. He also had 30 touchdowns and threw for almost 5,000 yards or whatever it was. He was balling if you take away those interceptions, even more so because, take away those 30 interceptions and you've got to assume there's going to be more touchdowns, more yards completed to his receivers,
Sure.
probably on an MVP pace that year without those INTs. For fantasy, 9 of the 16 weeks, he posted over 30 points in fantasy, even with all of those interceptions and with all of those, down games and all that. In fact, the worst game of his season, he still posted 15 points for fantasy.
That's huge.
That's not terrible for a guy that, had so many turnovers and such a bad season that he lost his starting job.
Absolutely.
So that's who I'm going for. Just keep him away from the crab shacks. Rookie of the year. This is a category that a lot of people are talking about because there are 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round of the draft. There are a lot of good talent all throughout the league. Of course, QB1 in Jacksonville was the 1 overall, and Trevor Lawrence. He's going to have a pretty rough go at things just because I think the Jags line isn't going to be able to protect him and give him the chance to really shine. Trey Lance and Justin Fields haven't been named starters as of yet. Let's see, who am I forgetting?
Mac Jones.
I was saving for last for a reason.
Oh, sorry.
Who's the 4th one?
Quarterbacks.
Zach Wilson. Wilson in New York. He's definitely up there for a competitor because he's going to go out there and be slinging it from week 1. And he has looked good in preseason, but it's only preseason, and he plays for the Jets, which is a team that isn't really built to be a winner. But for me, the guy that landed in the absolute perfect spot is Mac Jones. and he is going to go out there and win Offensive Rookie of the Year this year.
Yeah, I think he's an absolute solid pick. For me personally, I'm going to stay away from the quarterbacks, and I'm going to go with Najee Harris, running back for the Steelers. I think
Good pick.
I think they're going to hopefully, if they know it's good for him, feed him the rock. I don't think you're going to be able to count on old Big Ben to just sling it out there. Yes, they went 11-0 last year. That was also against pretty easy teams there for the first half of their season. They've got a brand new, young, ready to go running back, and I think if you can utilize him properly, you might see some Steelers of old, like the Jerome Bettis, the Le'Veon Bell of back in the day. This team knows what to do with a good running back, and I think if they have one here and if they utilize it properly, he could be absolutely Rookie of the Year. If they kind of have their own version of maybe a Derrick Henry type running back who can have 20, 30 carries a game, he's going to have tons of yardage. He's going to have all the stats he needs. I do think that Mac Jones is a great pick, but I just think Najee Harris probably is going to be used a lot. Hopefully, I mean, anybody out there that has him in fantasy probably agrees with me. Feed this guy the ball. I mean, he absolutely needs to be their workhorse. And I think if it's successful, he's going to have amazing stats.
Did you get Najee Harris in our draft?
No, I didn't. I really wanted him, but I can't remember who grabbed him. But yeah, he was high on my list, but somebody grabbed him.
Yeah, I'm not sure who got him either, but
Oh,
the way you were talking about him, I thought maybe that you had a bias about it. But you're absolutely right. You know, Big Ben has always been the more successful quarterback when he's had a solid running back to be able to hand the ball off to. You mentioned Jerome Bettis. You mentioned Le'Veon Bell. Those were the years whenever the Steelers were making runs at Super Bowl titles. If it wasn't for Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, they probably would have won a few more of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a good pick. Absolutely a good pick. If Najee Harris is able to step up and be in that kind of mold, then they'll be great. When the Steelers have to depend on throwing the ball, it doesn't really always translate into success. Yeah, it's great for fantasy because they throw up wild numbers in fantasy. Just look at Chase Claypool and how much people really want to overvalue him. Antonio Brown, same thing. You know, he was one of the most sought after wide receivers for years. And now all of a sudden he's a third string wide receiver that you can pick up in the 6th or 7th round. It is what it is, but I do think that might be a good pick. Najee Harris, you know, we'll put a pin in this one because I think it'll come down between either Mac Jones or Najee.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I think if Mac has the season like he had preseason and like everyone's kind of expecting of him, he's a little bit, you know, he's in that conversation, obviously, but I think he might have an edge simply because I think the league and these awards love to be given to quarterbacks.
Very fair point.
MVP is always a quarterback pretty much, unless there's somebody out there that just lights the world on fire and can't be denied. But I think you'll see that a lot. You know, quarterbacks tend to get a lot of the limelight.
Look at Justin Herbert last year instead of Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
Yeah, to your point. And Aaron Rodgers last year instead of Derrick Henry, who had a 2,000-yard rushing season and didn't win MVP.
Right.
But if Mac Jones is able to replicate what he did last year in college, he threw for 4,500 yards, had 40 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. If he's able to replicate anything like that, then I think he's a clear-cut Rookie of the Year. I mean, those are MVP numbers, if we're being honest.
Sure.
But let's talk about the MVP. That's the big one. That's the one that everybody's focused on. That's the one that everybody wants to know. Are they going to have the guy? I saw a comment coming through from Brandon Janis that Matt Stafford for MVP. That's a pretty hot take. Stafford is definitely going to have a much better season than he's had in years past. Is it going to be MVP worthy? That I'm not sure of. But for me, I've got Josh Allen taking it. I think this is a guy that's been building and building and building, getting closer and closer and closer. And over the past 3 years, he's inched his way up the depth chart as far as the entire quarterbacks are concerned. I think a lot of people last year had him listed as the 1B to Patrick Mahomes' 1A. And I think he's leapfrogged him at this point. I think Josh Allen has a little bit more going for him than Patrick Mahomes even. And I think Josh Allen walks away with the MVP.
This kind of contradicts my hot take at the beginning of our little segment. But I agree with you. I think Josh Allen could potentially get MVP this year. I think he could have a hell of a regular season. I think, those big name teams are going to be the only thing that's going to give him an issue. If he has an easier team to play against, he can absolutely light the scoreboard on fire. And I agree. He's up there with the likes of Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes gets a little bit more recognition, and he does those flashy no-look passes and stuff. But in my opinion, I think athletically and talent-wise, they're about on par. Josh Allen can absolutely move in the pocket and keep plays alive as he needs to. He has a hell of an arm. He can make a damn good throw. And I think that's just going to be nothing but stats for him for sure. Like you said, Stephon Diggs, that's an absolutely perfect target for Josh Allen. And if he can connect for 17 weeks, 16 weeks, he's going to have absolutely great numbers. And I think Patrick Mahomes, he won his MVP already. And I think it's going to be kind of difficult for him to repeat. We basically know what his shtick is, and we know what their kind of standard is. And if he deviates from that, well, how can you call him the MVP if he's done better and he didn't live up to that? You know what I mean? Where Josh Allen, we all know he's good, but I think he still has that ability to show us something. Like you said, if he does end up winning the AFC Championship and goes on to a Super Bowl, I know it's, regular season stats or whatever, but I think much like MLB, the eyes of the voters are drawn to those people who make it far in the playoffs and do all that kind of stuff. And I do think it sways their voting. And I think if Josh Allen can kind of do that Patrick Mahomes type thing and get to the big games, then I think he'll have an absolute good chance of winning MVP. And plus, I think his regular season is going to be on fire. I think he's going to be great this year.
Yep, I agree. And that kind of runs down the list of all the things that we had predicted for the season. So let us know what you think. Let us know in the comments who you think is going to be the MVP, the Rookie of the Year, the Super Bowl champs. Go ahead and just drop us those comments, and we'll react to those and all that. But sure. Zach, something happened in baseball recently that I want to get your opinions on, and I'm going to share the screen real quick.
Sure.
If you want to get rid of this overlay so that we can show it real fast. This is a home run that was hit in a minor league baseball game. As you can see, the score is 9-2. The batter kind of pimped the home run. He stared at the ball as it was flying over the fence. Was kind of showboating a little bit as he was going around. And just watch as he touches second base. The second baseman's like, just go, just run. And something was said, some words were exchanged, and then a brawl. That helmet hit him right in the lip. I don't know if you caught that, but that helmet bounced right off the dude's face. Benches cleared, and they had to be separated. The fans are going crazy, of course. I'm sure fans were fighting in the stands because that's what we do in 2021. And yeah, so what do you think about this? Like, guys going way overboard with their celebrations.
I think this is especially funny because this isn't the major leagues. And you've seen that all year from the likes of Tatis and the huge names out there that are hitting home runs and basically walking to first and then kind of trotting along. These guys in the minors kind of think that they're at that same level. Like, oh, that's cool for me to do too. But I don't think they've earned their stripes as they think they have. And I think Tatis and Acuna, and obviously Acuna's hurt, but those big name stars that are hitting home runs, they've kind of put themselves into that position where they can kind of showboat a little bit. they made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're playing in the show. And I think it's also a little bit because the second baseman's team was losing. It wasn't a close game. You know, that home run didn't really sway the game one way or the other. So that showboating was kind of a little bit extra anyway. And he was like, just run. Like, we're losing. Like, just get out of here.
Yeah.
So I can understand it from that perspective. But I think the home run there, I get it. I'm sure it's very exciting to hit one, but at a certain point, you really haven't made it yet. And maybe you should save that for when you're under the big bright lights and you hit one in the bottom of the ninth for your major league team, where, you know, that's where you're making your money and that's what your goal is.
And, you know, he hit a home run, but he never actually touched home plate. So I'm not sure that even counts as a run. It might be an over the fence out.
Right.
But joining us now, we have a good friend of the show that's going to be coming on, and he is the host of the McDojo Show. And he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I've got some news about the Professional Grappling Federation, and I would love to come on your show and share it with your audience." I said, "Yep, sure thing. Come on." So without further ado, please welcome Mr. Wallow J. Wallow, what is up, brother? How you doing? Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. You got to unmute it sometimes.
Sorry, bro. My
All
bad.
good.
I'm like a newbie all of a sudden. I don't know how to run this thing.
I know you've been podcasting now for what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, we're going on 5 in October. We're actually doing the McDojo Show, and now we're also doing the PGF Insider, which is for the Professional Grappling Federation. So we got a podcast specifically for the Professional Grappling Federation under the BJJ 365 network, which is under Brandon McCaffrey.
Nice, very nice. Is that you and Chris and Miggy on that as well?
Yep, same guys. We gained a co-host. I want to say about 6 months ago in the McDojo Show. Basically, he was like a fan of the Professional Grappling Federation, just like ourselves. And we got to talking to him or whatever, and we was like, "Dude, just join us on the McDojo Show." And you know, he's been with us for the last 6 months, and so there's 4 of us now on both podcasts.
Nice,
Yeah.
very nice. So what's the big news with the PGF that's coming up?
Well, so PGF, for those of you who don't know, we're going into season 3, and I say we because I feel like I'm part of this. I've been with it since the beginning. From day one, before it was even implemented, Brandon reached out and said, "Hey, this is my idea. What do you think? You think we can make this work?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" It sounded real good. Okay, so the Professional Grappling Federation. Most tournaments are super boring. You've been to them. All you do is just sit there and wait. It's like hurry up and wait. Well, this tournament is a little bit different. It's an invitational, and a 6 minutes match. The way that you score your points, because we now have a preseason, a season, and a postseason. So we start with the qualifiers. Qualifiers go to different cities. If you win the qualifier, you get an automatic berth to the season. So right now we have 5 qualifiers, no, 6 total for this season. 4 have already happened. So we have 4 guys that have gotten their automatic invite, and 1 that was impressive enough for the commissioner to say, "Hey, you're good. I want you in." So we got 2 more to go. The next one is here in Jacksonville, Florida on September 11th at 10 Planet Jacksonville. So after all the qualifiers are done and we have our 6 guys, there's also another guy who got an automatic bid because he's been in both seasons and won the first season undefeated. Second season only lost to 1 person, and he's coming back for the 3rd one. So he got an automatic invite. So we have, I want to say, between 13 and 14 spaces available for grapplers 170 pounds and under. So between that, I forgot to say, we're also going to have a draft.
It
So
sounded more and more like our football leagues.
exactly. And it's going to sound even more like a football league when I tell you that we have a fantasy league as well.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Last season winner walked away with $1,000.
Not bad.
No buy-in. All they had all they had to do was just sign up and just, you do your fantasy stuff and you pick your grapplers, and if you score the points, hey, you win. But anyway, back to the rules. So 6 minutes matches, joint locks, like arm bars, heel hooks, stuff like that, 3 points. Chokes, any kind of choke, like rear naked choke, that's 6 points. If you get it within the first minute, you get an extra point. If there's no winner of that match, there's no submission within those 6 minutes, there's 0 points. So it entices you to score your points because that's how you're going to qualify for the postseason. So this year we're going to have a 20-man roster, and they're all going to be recording the season in 1 week. They're all going to be doing it like Ultimate Fighter style, where they're staying at a lake house. So every day you will have between 3 to 4 matches, and I believe the top 8 that score the most points will proceed to the finale. And then in the finale is no time limit subs.
Wow. And the beauty of a jiu-jitsu tournament over an MMA tournament is you can have 3 or 4 matches in a day, and
Sure.
it won't absolutely kill you. If you were
Yep.
to be out there with gloves and hitting, and you'd have mandatory recovery times and stuff. We're not throwing guys out there like it's Pride back in the day where you had 3 fights in a night. This is pretty cool. I like the sounds of this.
Well, the first season, it was all live, but it was every week. So guys were traveling every week to Decatur, Alabama to compete. We had guys traveling from Virginia every week just to compete. And then the second season, they say, okay, let's avoid having guys to do that by having it all in 1 week, and we'll have them stay at the gym. Well, that eliminated a little bit of the fan interaction, because when it was live, you had people in the chat just, going crazy. And the commentators were, interacting back and forth with people in there, which people love. Now this season, we're adding also, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but you can actually donate through YouTube, money. This is called a super chat. So now we're looking at bounties. For example, at the qualifiers, I threw out, hey, $50 for a twister, and then somebody in the chat might say, I'll add another 25 to that. Somebody gets a twister, it's $75 in their pocket, or somebody in the chat may say, I got $15 for a wrist lock. So now there's like bounties for guys to specifically get paid on a specific submission. Or if you like what that grappler did for that particular day, their performance, you can actually send money on their name and they'll get that money. And everybody this season is going to get paid, no matter what, position you come in. You come in that last, you're still going to get paid something.
I would say, where do I sign up? But I'm more than 170 pounds, so I'm already disqualified. But this sounds like a really cool thing. It sounds like something that a lot of guys are going to be into. I got to ask, like guys like Squirrel, are they competing in things like this?
Yeah, I tried to get him to compete, but he is a little bit smaller right now because, it's 170 and he fights between 135 and 145. So he didn't want to take the risk of getting hurt, and because he's competing a lot, so he's competing at his weight, and he didn't want to take the chance. So maybe when they have a smaller weight division, he'll compete. The next one, season 3, is for 170 and below. Season 4, we already know is going to be women, but season 5, we don't know what weight's going to be. So.
Okay, so they are going to mix it up every season. Is it one season per year?
The way that it's running, we've had so far 2 seasons in 1 year. The first season was July through September of 2020. Then the finale was in, I want to say, October. Then after that, I think the season started in February. Yep. through April, and then the finale was in May. Yeah. So so 2 seasons so far within a year. So we're going on our second year, I guess,
Nice.
at
Yeah,
this
that's
point
cool.
with 3 seasons.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. I like the 6 minute time, and like it's a dead, stop
Yep.
time. It's not, there's no overtime or anything. I think that really kind of pushes the guys to like you said, get a submission and not play it safe. That'll make it really exciting for fans, I think.
Absolutely. That's the thing. We're trying to make this so the casual fan who does not know anything about grappling can actually sit down and enjoy it, because nobody wants to watch a 15-minute match where nothing's going on and there's a lot of stalling. Here you have to score points so you can advance to the postseason. And then you have also the incentive that, hey, there's a fantasy league. That's my guy. I got to watch this. I want to make sure that I'm in the running. And it makes it a lot of fun, especially when a lot of the fantasy players are in the chat. Oh, it's amazing. You go back and forth, with the crap talk and all that stuff. So it's fun.
And what sounds amazing about it is you mentioned that it's on YouTube. So it's not hidden behind paywalls and stuff like that. Like a lot of these jiu-jitsu tournaments or UFC even is hidden behind a paywall now. So the casual doesn't have to shell out $10 or $15 just to watch their guy.
Correct. Exactly. You go watch it for free. If you're happy with what you see, you throw $5 in the super chat and thanks. I'll see you guys next week. Yep. And a lot of people were doing that. I mean, they were coming in, they throw in $5 and $10, $20, or they put bounties out there, and it's a good way to interact while you're watching a good product.
Yeah. I like that idea a lot. Hey, it's almost like a tip. It's like you're tipping for the service. You're tipping for the entertainment value. I always hate when I'm at a restaurant and they put the automatic tip on the receipt. It's like, okay, well, that's all you're getting then. You want to assume that that's all I was going to give? All right.
Yeah. Well, cool. That's all you get.
Right. That's all you get. I'm not giving you extra. I would have given you a little bit more if that wasn't on my receipt.
Yeah, for sure.
When does the season kick off this year?
Okay, so the season is going to start taping, I believe, November 6th.
Gotcha.
That's still up in the air, but it's around that time. So once, actually, no, they switched it again. So this season is going to be around November 6th, but it's all going to be live. Every match is going to be live. So every day for a week, there's going to be the season. There's not going to be where they tape it and then release one episode with like 15 matches one week, and then the following week with the other matches. Everything's going to be live.
Nice. I think that'll be exciting too. I think people like watching live fights and live grappling,
live events. Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, I think that makes it exciting.
So yeah, it was a little difficult to try to keep everything quiet, and make sure that nobody got a win of who won or whatever. Because hey, fantasy was really important to some of these people. Sure. They were all in. I mean, it was a tight race.
Yeah, and having everything pre-recorded and in the can, the chances of stuff leaking, or just one of the guys that was competing being like, oh yeah, I already competed in that and I won, feeding his boy some information or whatever.
But they all knew that they couldn't say anything, but you still can slip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I hate that guy. He got me with an armbar. Oh, really?
Something like, yeah, he did. we were paying attention to every single interview, to like their cadence. I mean, just to see if we could pick up on anything that would tell us how a match went.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
It'll be a lot better with it being live. That way, that there is no risk for anything slipping up like that. Now, you said September 11th in Jacksonville, Florida is the next preseason event.
The qualifier, one of the qualifiers. Correct.
Is that going to be on YouTube as well?
That is correct. It'll be on YouTube. I believe. Let me look up the channel and I'll put it on the chat here for you guys. Let's see. Sorry, I should have been prepared for this.
No, you're good.
And I wasn't. That's my bad. That's my bad. Because I tell people, just be prepared to be there. Here we go. Here's the channel. I just put it on your private chat. I guess I could put it in the comments too. No,
I'll
I can't.
take care of that. I'll
Yep.
take care of that.
There you go.
So I'm dropping that in the comments for anybody watching that would be interested in finding that. It's going out to all of our feeds right now. And so, yeah, check that out. September 11th, Professional Grappling Federation is going to be from Jacksonville, Florida at 10th Planet Jacks. And that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm also going to throw that URL up here. Not that anybody can click it, but you can copy and write it down if you want to.
Screenshot.
The easiest way
Screenshot,
to, the easiest thing to look up is either PGF or Brendan McCaffrey or even 10th Planet Decatur, and you'll find the channel.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll definitely have to have you back on closer to November so we can kind of preview the season and kind of remind people that it's about to kick off.
Oh, for sure. Actually, I wanted to talk to you guys. What's going on with my Jags, bro? I don't know nothing. I saw that one of our toys was trying to break itself. The new one, the expensive one.
Yeah, Travis.
And then the running back too.
Yeah, ETN got hurt. Trevor Lawrence, he decided to just dive through a bunch of people and then risk injury in a preseason game. Man, I don't know. I think most experts out there are predicting that the Jags are only going to win 3 or 4 games this season. They got rid of your boy Minshew.
Was that a mistake? Say yes.
So. 100%. I think it was a mistake because they didn't get anything immediate back in return to help the team.
Absolutely.
They got a potential 5th round draft pick out of him for next year's draft. I think they should have tried to get something to beef up the offensive line this year.
How long before we see Trevor Lawrence doing some guest spotting in AEW and not going very well?
Well, if AEW was still exclusively at Daly's place, I think you would probably see it sooner rather than later. Now that they're back on the road, they don't have that dependence on the Jacksonville area to be a show. It may be a little bit longer.
Yeah,
okay.
I think so too.
I think he gets broken there too.
Yeah, probably.
By accident.
Get slammed through a table or something like that, which they've got some legit talent in AEW now. They've been poaching WWE's roster for a while now.
Yep.
All right, last question. Was the Team Tebow experiment a mistake?
Zach?
I don't think it cost them a whole hell of a lot. I think it got people talking about them, even though everyone was already talking about the Jags for Trevor Lawrence and stuff. I think it was just another, sound bite, another headline for them to kind of put out to the fans. And I honestly think that it was just kind of a
publicity stunt.
I think it was a favor from Urban Meyer to his boy. And I think, hey, you know what? I'm the head of the team now. Come by, see what you can do. I can't promise you anything, but I'll give you the chance. And I think that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, I have a feeling that a lot of it was to try to bring in the Urban Meyer
crowd.
Not really the crowd, but the Urban Meyer locker room presence.
Okay.
Somebody who was experienced under his leadership that can be an extension of the coaching staff to the players. I just think that it went over like a lead balloon, and people realized that Tim Tebow wasn't going to be a tight end. He wasn't going to be a starter in the NFL anymore. And look, he's already landed a job on First Take, I believe it is, with who was it? Whoever's the co-host of that show.
Don't say Stephen A. Smith.
I think it is. I want to say it is, but maybe it's not.
Stephen A's on ESPN. I think First Take is Fox. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah,
Well, he got a job. That's cool.
Yeah, Tebow's going to be a commentator, and I think that's what he should have done 6 years ago. Whenever he originally quit the NFL, retired.
It is Stephen A.
Oh, is it?
On First Take.
Jeez,
oh, that's not a good team right there.
Yeah, that's going to be weird.
I hope Tebow gets pissed off and punches him in the face or something.
Well, he's a man of God, so I think he'll just.
I hope I hope God doesn't answer that day and be like, go ahead.
Yeah.
And one last comment: that guy with the home run with the dress, Ramos, punk. He was hiding behind people. You see him? He was like.
He threw the helmet and then immediately got behind somebody else.
Yeah, Punk.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thank you for having me on. I
No
appreciate
problem.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. We'll have you back on, like Zach said, whenever it gets a little bit closer to time for the PGF to go live, and we'll try to get some people hyped up about it. Maybe if you guys have like video packages or anything like that, we can share that as well.
Yeah. Do you guys do fight companions for those?
We don't. We do. What the PGF Insider is basically, we do it a week before, not a week before. So when the season was being televised on a weekly basis, we would go on before they go live
Oh, okay.
on their show, and we'll talk about the matches from the previous week, the matches upcoming this week, and who do we think is going to win, and we do our picks, live for people to, hey, follow along or make your own picks, whatever. But these are our guys. So
Sure.
that's what we were doing. This time when the season, it's all going to be 1 week. We don't know what we're going to do now.
Gotcha.
I mean, because it's going to be kind of hard to podcast every day, but we may have to. Actually, I thought about possibly being up there during the season, because they're also going to have other, people doing like desk jobs and stuff like that, like interviews, and then you have your regular commentators. So I was possibly going to go up there. I still don't know, but if nothing else, we're probably going to have to podcast every day, I guess.
That'd be wild.
That is going to be wild, but
Yeah.
it's fun, and it's something that you guys seem to really enjoy, and I'm going to definitely be checking it out.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So,
guys.
Thank you for coming on, and we'll definitely check it out. Go ahead and plug McDojo Show and where people can find that real quick before you
Oh,
leave.
yeah. Also, yeah, that's our other show, our original show that we still do. That's where we let our hair down and just cut loose. That one is on Fridays on the youtube.com at /McDojo Live. So we're still there every, weekday on Fridays, 4:30 p.m., just doing our regular, combat sports talk and shenanigans. We try to talk about combat sports, but lately it just doesn't happen. It's just us talking shit about each other for like an hour. So
Those are always fun.
yeah. But anyway,
So yeah, check
Thanks,
out
guys.
McDojo Show and check out a Professional Grappling Federation. Sounds like a lot of cool stuff. Wallow, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. So thank you guys for watching. That's all that we have for you guys tonight. Just wanted to make sure that we got that little segment in there for Wallow to advertise for the PGF. Sounds pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely going to check it out. It kind of sounds like how Eddie Bravo did his own thing. Eddie added strikes, palms and whatever. And I think the PGF has a really cool thing going on. Like I said, with the 6-minute hard cutoff time, that really makes it exciting. And I think that's how you're going to grab a casual fan is if you action pack it and they don't have to sit there and wait for something to happen.
Yeah.
Everyone's attention span is so short these days. That's kind of why baseball has had some issues with viewership. And I think a lot of people kind of know the basics of grappling and jiu-jitsu because of MMA. Obviously, UFC is very popular. So people are kind of understanding a choke. Oh, yeah, he's got him in a choke. If they can see some of that, they might get hooked on this.
Yeah. And, it will just further the sport of MMA as well, because more and more people are going to be learning what this is that is going on, instead of being that guy that stands up at the UFC fight and is yelling, "Stand them up, ref." Maybe they'll understand the intricacies of the ground fighting game. So
Absolutely. Yep.
all right. So we appreciate everybody for commenting and watching along with us. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode. We'll be back this coming Saturday night with our first C2C that is ready to pick week 1 matchups and all that stuff. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for fantasy football, and let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's go. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.